Hey, alla Richard Metal fan här. Bringing you guys a brand new 2021 album review, and as you can see below the title, today we're going to be looking into the new album from the band Tribulation entitled Where the Gloom Becomes Sound, which was released today through Century Media Records. Now, for those of you who don't know who Tribulation are, they're a metal band based out of Arvika, Sweden, and these guys have been around since 2005. Um, and I discovered Tribulation about almost 5 years ago. I actually first saw them on the 2016 Decibel Magazine tour. You can see there's the poster right behind me with Abath and Skeleton Witch and High on Fire, and I think they opened that show, and I thought they were pretty interesting. And then that's how I discovered them, and then I went and checked out all their stuff, and I feel like with all their other albums, going from like their first album, which came out in 2009, The Horror, I thought that was a pretty good album. But that album was kind of like they had like more of that death metal, kind of like black metal sound to it, that kind of like hybrid. Same thing with their second album, which came out in 2013, called The Formulas of Death, which I thought that was a pretty good follow up. But, but then I feel like with after those two albums, they really changed it up with their third album, The Children of the Night. Now, The Children of the Night was kind of like a departure from their death metal sound and having more of a just focusing on like mixture of like heavy metal, black metal, sort of like psychedelic rock and gothic rock, which kind of is interesting because that Tribulation doesn't really have like a formula that they stick with. They pretty much have like take a different approach to every album. And then their last album, which came out in 2018, called Down Below, which I thought was a pretty good album. But here we are with album number 5, Where the Gloom Becomes Sound. Does it kind of like live up or pick up where Down Below has? I think it definitely has a little bit. Like I feel like every album I mentioned before, Tribulation just always takes like a different approach, and like sometimes it can be risky. Like I mentioned with the first two albums, just being kind of like a death metal sound with a little bit of the black metal, little bit of it. But after Children of the Night, they really changed it up a lot, and I honestly feel like when I first heard it, it almost feels like I heard a little bit of like a Ghost, so another fellow Swedish band was sounded a bit, but yeah, but that's another story. But just the other, let's just go right into this album. Just production wise, fantastic. Like everything's where it needs to be, all the levels and all that shit. Just the vocals from Johannes Anderson is just like he does like that kind of like raspy, kind of like growly stuff, and more high shrieky stuff, which is heard in typical black metal. Um, and then the guitar work from Adam Zars, and first album with a new member, new guitarist, Joseph Thal. I feel like Joseph and Adam's guitar playing is great. Just like the riffs they come up with is pretty amazing. And Johannes's bass is pretty audible. I feel like I love how he pretty much links in with what Adam and Joseph do with the melody on the guitars, and then with what Oscar Leander does on the drums. Like, it's just fucking superb. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive into this album track by track. Now, starting things off is the song In Remembrance. Blech, can't even speak today, which just kicks it off right with from the get-go. And it has some like great little bit of like cell synths and sort of like great melodic guitar is in here, and then it just goes right into like a bridge that just builds with just some insane like arpeggiated guitar riffs, and almost kind of like a ghouly kind of like lead parts, which is, I don't know, it's a pretty good song, a pretty great way to start off this album. And then we move on to one of the singles from this album, being Hour of the Wolf. Now this song has a very gothic metal sound to it, but just sounds so good on point, and just the riffs in here are just very dark sounding thing. And this song kind of reminds you a little bit of Aglock a little bit, and sort of like the way that sort of like the melodic riffs go with the bass and the vocals. It almost kind of like feels like something off of Pale Folklore, or it's another great song. Leviathans. Now, right from the get-go, it just goes straight in, and it has some like clean sounding guitars, and it has a good solid drum beat. Being it, the lead guitar on this song almost has like kind of like a little Middle Eastern sound to it, and I definitely get some of like that early 80s vibes to it as well. Next song on the album is called Dirge of a Dying Soul. Now, I really like sort of like it starts out with a pretty much a gentle kind of like intro, and then it just crumbles into like great guitar chords and just some really great guitar melodies and some great arpeggios that answers Johannes's says like just his call. I don't know. It's a good song. Next song is called Levi. I probably butchered that. Just forgive me. And I feel like lyrically the song talks about like a mythical river in Hades, which water causes the drinker to forget the past. And I don't know. It's just a pretty evil sounding song. Pretty much, I don't know. It just sounds so evil. Daughter of the Djinn. Now this song has a little bit of an upbeat kind of vibe to it, especially with rhythmically from Johannes and Oscar. Sure, and then following with the guitar works and has like a little bit of a progressive kind of like vibes to it. Elementals. I really love the great rhythms, which just propelled the song into like some big kind of like rocking guitars and a great bridge, which that just injects some like new kind of like life into the songs that's just already just deliciously good. Insana, another great song. I think it's pretty sick. Funeral Prior. Now this song is really good. It's just driven by a great riff, which almost kind of sounds very thrash like. Like it has some of the most shreddiest leads so far that I've heard from any of Tribulation, and I love how it sort of like eases up a little bit, especially near the bridge, which just sounds it's very melancholic a little bit, but then just then gets to like an aggressive kind of like thrashiness returns. It just ends all out there. And then the album closes with The Wilderness, and I think it's a pretty solid way to end this album, just and end everything just right then and there, which is awesome. Now overall, well, Where the Gloom Becomes Sound by Tribulation is another great album to come out in 2021 so far. So if I have to give this album a score, I'm going to give the new album probably an 8.5 out of 10. So yep, that's my review of the new Tribulation album, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about the album, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.